So you want to learn how to play bass guitar, but you need to learn how to play as soon as possible. Is there anything you can do to learn this instrument in time for that emergency gig next week? Today, I'm going to give you everything that I know to learn this instrument as fast as possible. Let's go. What's up, guys? I'm Carmine and I play bass, and today we're going to learn how to play bass as soon as possible, or how to learn very fast. Before we begin, I just want to thank all the subscribers and the new subscribers here. Thanks so much for supporting the channel and sticking around. Please leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you have any bass video or any topic in mind that you want me to cover. Please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Focusing on the roots. The most important note that you'll play on bass is the root note of the chord being played. The root is a specific note that names and typifies the chord that's being played. Most often it's the lowest note in the chord, but it doesn't always have to be that way. There's different inversions and different ways that you can phrase a chord, but a lot of times when playing bass, it is the lowest note. First things first, when you're trying to learn this instrument fast, you want to know the chords that are being played. You want to know what you're playing to. A very quick way to do this, if you're playing with other people, is just to ask. Ask the keyboardist, ask the guitar player, what chords are you playing? By the name that they tell you, it's a C major chord. Cool. You know that the root is C, and you'll hang there for that chord, and so on for other chords. The whole point of being able to identify the root of chords is you can go through an entire song, whether it's an original song from a band or something that's out there already, identify all the chords, and know that if you just hang on that one note per chord, you'll be good. That's a very quick way to start playing bass immediately. For instance, if you were playing bass and you weren't very confident in your ability, but you had to go play a show, you can learn all the chords in the songs and just play half or whole notes and let them sustain during each chord throughout the song. Would it be the most creative way to play bass? No, but it would definitely be much better than that band playing without a bass player, as long as you hit all the roots correctly. Here is an example of that. So that's an option for something that drags out a little bit more, notes that sustain, maybe something that's a little bit washier or in halftime, whatever. The elevation of that would be breaking it up a little bit with some syncopation, playing a bit more of a rhythmic bass line, maybe with some 8th or 16th notes, but essentially sticking to the same root note for each chord. You really just want to be breaking up that rhythm according to what the rest of the band and especially the drummer is doing. You want to focus on just blending and chopping up your rhythm to a sound that's appropriate with the song and the context, the genre. It definitely can give us a little more variation, and when you pair it with what we just learned with half and whole notes, you now are developing this toolbox that you can pull from. This will be a very basic way to start using syncopation in your bass lines. Syncopation is a disruption or disturbance of the regular flow of rhythm. A placement of rhythmic stresses or accents where they normally wouldn't occur. Now, that's just the definition and normally doesn't really hold much weight here, but you get the point. These two options will give you enough versatility to keep things fresh, but still allow you to just focus on the root note while playing. Now that we have the root note under our fingers, let's add one note to our repertoire. The 5th. In most cases, while playing simpler and more predictable kinds of music and chord changes, the 5th will be the same from major and minor chords. It will be a perfect 5th. So for the time being, we're just going to focus on that perfect 5th. We're not going to focus on anything more advanced than that. A 5th is the interval from the first to the last of the first 5 consecutive notes in a diatonic scale. The perfect 5th spans 7 semitones. So now we know how to find the root of the chord. We know how to switch up and add variety to our rhythmic style of playing. And now we know how to add and incorporate the fifth on top of the root. If we add the perfect fifth in there as an option, we've infinitely expanded our possibilities. And remember, this is just to learn quickly and give you options to play the bass as soon as possible. You should apply these techniques to any song you're learning or listening to, jamming along to, and see how they fit. See if you could practice this over and over again, and then you can apply it to all the new songs that you're learning and performing. There are definitely more thorough ways to practice this and understand these concepts, but just for the sake of today's video, we're focusing on learning this instrument and how to play it in front of other people as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. So bear that in mind. So we've added the root and the fifth. There will be a third note that we add into this mix of possibilities, and I'm going to save that for the end of the video because first I want to get to something that's more rhythm-based and more ear training-based. It will help you a lot if you know how to count your way through songs and understand arrangements and what's predictable in typical kinds of music. This is a very basic skill set, but it focuses on using your ear, which is very important and probably is a more important tool than your fingers. In the heat of the moment, having a repertoire and understanding of music and arrangements can really help you, and it can allow you to be prepared as to what to expect next. Subconsciously, you kind of understand the roadmap of these songs so that if something happens, you forget a part, you slip on one of the frets, you're ready. You know where to go next, and you can anticipate it because you're familiar with the kind of music and what music does where. Counting your way through the song is your other backup. It's just a mathematical system. It's a metronome that's set in your head and you're locked in. One helpful tip, and this is nerdy, mind you, is to count your way through songs as you're listening for fun. It might seem really basic, but if you haven't done it much, then you're not really in the practice of doing it. But if you're listening to the radio, if you're throwing on Spotify or listening to a YouTube video, whatever it might be, just when you hear the beat kick in, just count your way through it. And typically what you'll find is that you can understand the arrangement a little bit more because you're focusing on when things happen. So count, how long are these verses? How long does this verse compare to this verse of this other song? Will all these songs be the same? No, of course not. But you can start to see the patterns that overlap and the similarities and the common denominators between songs that you like. And that, in turn, is giving you this knowledge and this foundation in genre, arranging, being a better musician. But as a bass player, and really any musician, it's very important that you understand and you can sort of predict what an arrangement's going to be, and you have good instincts and anticipation. Okay, this last one is a bit of a bonus and it's very simple. We're going to be focusing on adding the octave. So we have the root note, we have the fifth, and we're going to add the octave. The root, fifth, and the octave really can be used in almost any style. I mean, I use it in every style, especially if there's a moment of time I need to fill or I don't really have a particular part mapped out. It's such a great thing to lean on. It feels so good live and so good for a performance. And you could switch the rhythm up in so many different ways that gives you infinite options. So depending on how you switch it up, it can apply to so many different musical contexts. Let's go through a few examples here. Here's an example of us playing with the root, fifth, and octave slow and sustained. Here's an example of us playing with it funky in a very funk-driven hip-hop R&B context. And here's an example of us using it almost as power chords. I do this live a lot, especially for really big moments that are building up to something. We can slide around and use it as power chords here. So by adding the octave in with the root and the fifth, you can get out there and play to most songs. And it's pretty risk-free because most of those notes are going to apply to most songs that exist. Another important tip I just want to throw in there is that if you're new and you're trying to learn really fast, your fingers are going to get sore. Your fingertips are going to get very sore. And the only way through this quickly is to play through it. and to play for a while. So I would say if you're starting out in your first couple of practice sessions, you have the finger dexterity to do some of the things we talked about today. I would then try to play for 45 minutes or an hour by yourself until you start to get that sore sort of pain in your fingertips. And then the next day you have to come back and continue following up so you can build up calluses. Once you have calluses on those fingertips, it's going to get so much easier. That's really the most effective way to get those fingertips sore and exposed to like a lot of time on the fretboard. And then following that up the next day and the next day and the next day is the way to make the callus form. That's all I have for you today. By focusing on the root, the fifth, and the octave, as well as switching up your rhythms and knowing how to count through songs, that gives you a ton of versatility and options to get playing bass guitar quickly and as soon as possible. I really appreciate you stopping by and watching the video. Thank you to all my subscribers and everybody leaving comments. And thanks so much to the new subscribers for hanging out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and let me know if there's a video idea or a topic that you'd like to see next. Thanks so much. And remember, you don't have to be the best or the fastest bass player in the world. You just have to be funky. Peace.